Hello and welcome to our session. Today we'll be discussing the chapter Body Fluids and Circulation. We know that every cell of our body requires a continuous supply of oxygen and nutrients. Then only energy will be produced continuously. And as a result of this metabolic activities, respiration, there will be the production of some byproducts. These are to be transported to the excretory organs from where they will be sent out of the body. So continuously materials are to be transported to the cells and back from cells to the excretory organs. And this function of transportation is done by body fluids. In all advanced types of animals, there is a specific fluid which we generally call as blood. This blood is the main fluid that is responsible for the transportation of materials to the cell and from the cells. And we have studied that blood is a fluid connective tissue, only tissue that is fluid in nature. It is derived from mesoderm. Blood is passing through blood vessels in our body, and such a type of circulation where blood is flowing through closed tubes is called closed type of blood vascular system, which is an advanced one. This system is having an advantage. What is that advantage? What should be the amount of blood supplied to each and every organ that can be well controlled and regulated. Whereas in lower organisms, as in the case of cockroach, there is arthropoda, in some of the mollusks, etc., blood is flowing through open spaces. There are no specific blood vessels in them. All available spaces are thus filled with blood, and all organs are remaining bathed in that blood. Such a type of blood vascular system is called closed type. So understand that in all advanced animals, in all vertebrates, we are having closed type of blood vascular system, and to pump that blood, there is a heart. There are two fluids in our case, namely blood and lymph. Lymph is derived from blood and returning to the blood. Still, we are having these two related fluids that is performing the function of distribution of materials. Okay, now we have to study these two fluids. One, blood. As we have studied earlier, blood is a special connective tissue, and since it's a connective tissue, it is having abundant matrix. That matrix we have studied is the plasma. Plasma has or constitute 55% of the volume of the blood, and the remaining is 40% constituted by the corpuscles, the formed elements, or the cells are called corpuscles. Now coming to the structure of the plasma. Plasma is water as the major constituent. 90 to 92% is water. That's why blood can transport a number of materials, because it is mainly made up of water. And in this water, there will be a large number of materials floating and suspended and dissolved in it. What are these materials? Let us see. We are having proteins, 6 to 8%. Of these proteins, 3 are very important and unique, namely albumin. Albumin is responsible for water holding capacity of the blood. It controls the osmo capacity or water holding capacity. It is concerned with maintenance of water level in the body. Okay, so water holding ability is mainly made up of the albumin. Okay, then fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is concerned with defense of the blood vascular system. It is preventing the excess loss of blood from our body. It prevents bleeding by facilitating clotting. And the third one is globulin. There are spherical proteins which are all involved in defense mechanism, mainly involved in defense mechanism. So, the proteins are albumin, which is responsible for the osmotic balance of the body, globulin, which is responsible for the defense mechanism of the body, and fibrinogen are helping in blood clotting or coagulation. Okay, these are the proteins. Along with that, we have large number of different types of minerals, mainly of sodium, calcium, magnesium, etc. in the form of their bicarbonates, chlorides, etc. Blood is its chief transporting agent. So, it will be also containing absorbed, digested materials like glucose, amino acids, lipids, etc. Also, it contains waste material that are to be transported to the excretory organ. So, urea is also present in it, and others. Minerals are 1 to 2%, and others. What are others? Which will be including the waste materials, hormones. Okay, hormones are also transported through the blood. Dissolved gases, oxygen, carbon dioxide, they are all transported either in a physical form, in a chemical form. So, all of them are constituting others. That is the nature of blood. Okay. So, plasma, which constitute 55%. Now, coming to the formed elements. What are all formed elements? Formed elements include the cells. These cells are called corpuscles. We are having three main type of cells. They are erythrocytes. Erythros means red. They are called RBC. They are the most abundant. In 1 ml of blood, you will be having 5 to 5.5 ml of, 5.5 million of, it is million of RBCs. That is our count, 5 to 5.5 millions. They are having an average size of 7 mu. 7 to 8 mu is the correct value. We take 7.5. So minimum 7 mu. And they are all having biconcave disc-like shape. Biconcave disc. An immature RBC will be having nucleus and will be having no color. But when it becomes mature, the nucleus is removed When the nucleus is removed, it attains this biconcave disc shape and the interior will be filled with the hemoglobin. So it is because of the hemoglobin that is having color. And because of the red color, it is called erythrocytes. These erythrocytes are having an average lifespan of 120 days. All blood cells are originating in adults or produced by the red bone marrow. So, red bone marrow, which are present in some of the bones like vertebrae, ribs, skull bones, they will be having red bone marrow, they will be producing the RBCs. Whereas in fetus, they are all produced in the liver. In adults, also from liver, it may be produced in emergency situations. But normally, when we reach the age of 5, the function will be taken up by the red bone marrow, and thereafter, liver will be producing RBC only in case of emergency. Spleen is also capable of producing RBC and storing them. Okay. Now, when they become old, I told you it is having an average lifespan of 120 days, they will be destroyed in the spleen. That's why the spleen is called the graveyard of RBCs, because they will be all broken down. So, broken down spleen. Spleen is the graveyard. What is the main function of RBC? It is transportation of both oxygen and carbon dioxide. That is the main function. So, respiratory gases are transported. Transport of gases. That is the main function. Okay. Now, coming to the second. They are called leukocytes. Leuko means colorless, white. So they are called white blood cells. Their number will be least because they will be having 6,000 to 8,000 per ml of blood. And their size will be larger. So, for example, from 8 to 18 mu. Even large sized monocytes are larger, very large, 18 mu. So, larger. And they are usually having a circular outline and some of them are amoeboid, having ability to produce pseudopodia. So they may change their shape. Otherwise, they will be all looking circular discs. Okay, they are all circular disc shaped with nucleus. In RBC, it is biconcave disc because it is having no nucleus when it becomes mature. Okay, but here there is a nucleus, and since there is no color, no hemoglobin, but nucleus present. Okay, they are also produced in the red bone marrow. They are all originating from red bone marrow. And what is their main function? They are responsible for protecting our body from diseases, immunity. They are responsible for immunity, protecting our body from sickness. And the lifespan will be very often it is less than a few hours, very few. So the lifespan is very because we are having different types of WBCs, but generally the lifespan is less than, say for example, a few hours. Whereas in the third category, which is called thrombocytes, thrombocytes are simply called as platelet. Why they are called platelets? Because they are formed by the splitting of large nucleated cell called megakaryocytes. These megakaryocytes simply break into so many pieces, and so you are having platelets which are colorless, shapeless, and without any nucleus. Okay, so their number will be 1.5 to 3 lakhs per ml. And usually their size will be 3 to 4 mu. So they are the smallest in size among all the three types of blood cells. So no shape, no color, no nucleus. Okay. Here color is there, that is hemoglobin is there, but no nucleus. So only one which is having nucleus is the WBCs. Okay. And they are also produced from bone marrow, red bone marrow, and we are having large nuclear cells called megakaryocytes. From which they are all produced. And what is their main function? Their main function is coagulation or clotting of blood. Blood clotting. Okay, so that is about the different types of blood cells. Clear? Now, we are having the WBCs of different types. Okay, we are having WBCs of different types. How we can identify these WBCs? WBCs can be classified into two categories, namely granulocytes, they are having granules in their cytoplasm, and the nucleus is lobed nucleus, and cytoplasm will be having granules. These will be constituting 65% of the WBC. And the largest among them is neutrophil. Neutrophil will be also called polymorpho-neutrophil, PMNL, because they will be showing different types of nucleus having 2 to 7 lobes. 2 to 7 lobes. And they will be 60 to 65%. Whereas The basophils are the least. They will be only 0.5 to 1%. Least. And basophil will be usually 2 to 3 lobes. In eosinophils, only 2 lobed. 2 lobed. And their density will be, or their number will be, eosinophils will be 2 to 3%. Okay? 2 to 3%. Now, what about the functions of polymorpho-neutrophils? Polymorpho-neutrophils are macrophagic. They can put forth pseudopodia, change their shape, and can capture, eat, destroy pathogens, dead cells, etc. Okay, so neutrophils are most abundant and they are all phagocytic, which will destroy foreign organisms that are entering in. Basophils are secretory in function. They produce histamine, serotonin, heparin, etc., which are all highly essential in inflammatory responses. And eosinophils are involved in allergic responses, in allergic actions. Okay, so that is about the granulocytes. Now coming to the agranulocytes. These agranulocytes are of two types. What is agranulocytes? Having no granules. So they are characterized by absence of granules. No granule. No granules in the cytoplasm. And nucleus is not lobulated. Not lobed. We are having monocytes, which are the largest in size. These monocytes are 6 to 8% of the total WBCs. Okay, 6 to 8%. And their nucleus will be kidney shaped. Kidney shaped. There is no lobes, but kidney shaped. These monocytes are macrophagic in nature. They can put forward pseudopodia and take and eat any foreign material that is entering into our body. And lymphocytes are smaller cells. They constitute 20 to 25%. And they are concerned mainly with immunity. There are two types of lymphocytes, T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. T lymphocytes are responsible for what is called cell-mediated immunity, meaning these will go to the site of infection and eat away all the pathogens or disease-causing germs by their phagocytic activity. It is also responsible for rejection of a graft tissue from our body, whereas B lymphocytes are producing antibodies. They are responsible for the production of antibodies. So understand the different types of granulocytes. Granulocytes are constituting 65% and agranulocytes 35%. So three types of granulocytes, two types of agranulocytes. Clear? So that is the composition of our blood. Now, coming to the blood groups. People are classified into different categories based upon a presence or absence of antigens on the surface of RBC. There are two types of antigens, antigen A, antigen B. Some people will be having only one type. Say for example, I am having only A antigen in my RBC, then I belong to A group. If another man is having B antigen only, it is called B group. Some persons may have both A and B antigen, they are belonging to AB group. Whereas others will be having no antigen at all. They are called O group or zero group. So it is based upon the presence or absence of antigen. We are all classifying persons into blood group. What is a blood group? A group of persons having the same type of antigen on their RBC is constituting a blood group. It's a group of persons have the same type of antigens. Antigens are present on the surface of RBC. Correspondingly, there's a counter molecule. That counter molecule is called antibody. Antibody is in plasma. So if you are having two types of antigen, correspondingly, you should have two types of antibodies, anti-A and anti-B. And a man possessing one type of antigen will always have the opposite type of antibody. Meaning, suppose I am having A antigen, I belong to A group. My RBC is having A antigen, and in plasma, I am having opposite type, that is anti-B. You got it? Anti-B. A antigen, anti-B. Okay. If I am having B antigen, I am belong to the group B, and I will be having anti-A, opposite type. If I am having both A and B antigen, then I belong to AB group. Since both antigens are present, I cannot have any antibody in my plasma. So antibodies are absent or abstaining from my plasma. Sometimes I will be having no antigen at all. Then I belong to zero group or O group, and I will be having both A antibody and B antibody in my plasma. What is the importance of this blood group? Blood group is to be checked when we are all donating or receiving blood, because if you transfuse the wrongly matched blood groups, that will be resulting in clumping. So, what is a matching blood group or competent blood group? If these two blood are mixed together, no reaction occur, no clumping occur. That is called a matching blood group. If on mixing two blood, they are all coagulating or clumping, then they are not matching. They cannot be transfused each other. Suppose I am A group. I am having A antigen on the RBC. That is taken into account. So if I am donating blood, to whom I can donate? I can donate to A, because my body is having A antigen, and another man is also having A antigen, and he is having only anti-B. I am having antigen A, he is having anti-B. So I can easily donate to A. And can I give it to B? No, B is having antibody. I am having antigen A, and he is having antibody A. That B group is having anti-A. So I cannot give blood to that person. It will become coagulated. So in blood transfusion, what is important? The reaction between antigen of the donor blood with the antibody of the recipient blood. That is the most important point. You have to look into that. Okay. So because of that reason, I cannot give it to, if I am A group, I cannot give it to B. If I am A group, I give it to AB. AB is having, see, no antibody. So, AB is having no antibody. So, I can give blood to AB. But I cannot give it to O group. Why? Because O group is having anti-A. I am having antigen A. So, if I give it to him, there will be clumping. So, I cannot give to O. Okay. Donors group, that is to which I can receive from. I am A group. I can receive from A and I can receive from O group. Why I can receive from O group? In blood transfusion, I told you, donor's antigen. O group is having no antigen at all. So whatever may be the antibody I may be having, no problem. He is having no antigen. That is why O group person can donate blood to anybody. So O group is called universal donor. Similarly, AB group, he is having both antigen. So he cannot give blood to any other group other than, because he is having both antigens. So he can give blood only to a man who is having no antibody. He is having both antigen. So who is that man who is having no antibody? AB. And AB can give blood only to AB, but can receive. Why he can receive? Because on receiving, it is the antibody present in plasma that is important. AB group is having no antibody. So he can receive blood from anybody. This is the reason why AB is called universal recipient. So O is called universal donor, AB is called universal recipient. So this is the importance of the blood group. This blood group study have enabled us to make safe and reliable blood transfusion, transfer of whole blood, meaning blood with corpuscles and plasma from one person to another person. It was studied in detail in 1900 by two Austrian doctors, Karl Landsteiner, Von de Castello, Levin, etc. Okay. Later on, another group was also discovered. This group is called RH group. That is, those which are having the same antigen that is present in rhesus monkeys. Most of human populations are also having the same antigen that is present in rhesus monkeys. Those which are having that antigen is called RH positive. So A group man may be RH positive also. These are all two different blood groups. Okay, having two different inheritance, and those which are having only very small percentage having no RH antigen are called RH negative. The main significance of this group is that in RH blood group, there is no naturally occurring antibody. That means I may be an RH negative, but by birth, I am not having any antibody. See, in AB blood group, I am O group, but I am having no antigen, but having both antibodies in my plasma. But here in AB blood group, I am O group. I don't have RH antigen, but I don't have RH antibody also. RH antibody is called anti-D. It is called anti-D. But it can be induced. So for example, I am RH negative. I don't have RH antigen. I don't have RH antibody. But suppose I am receiving by mistake blood with RH antigen. I am receiving blood from RH positive man. That antigen is new to my body. Now, slowly my body start producing antibodies. Okay, antibody will be produced in my body. That is the main difference between ABO blood group and RH blood group. And the discovery also gave way for an explanation for the occurrence of a problem called hemolytic disease of the newborn, commonly called HDN, also called erythroblastosis fetalis. See, a mother may be RH negative, but suppose that her husband is RH positive. They are having a first child which is RH positive. Because the husband is positive, he will be inheriting that gene for the baby, so the baby becomes RH positive. Remember, at the time of delivery, there will be definitely bleeding. Blood vessels are broken and there is definitely bleeding, and the fetal blood will be slowly, a small quantity, introduced into or absorbed into the circulatory system of mother. Okay. So this occurs towards the end of delivery, towards the end of pregnancy and during delivery. So by the time the first baby is delivered, no problem. But this RH antigen from this baby enter into the blood of mother. So what will happen? She is RH negative. When RH antigen is introduced to her body, she starts producing antibody. Now she slowly produces antibodies. She is producing antibodies. And these antibodies are remain in her blood. Now, suppose that she is again becoming pregnant for a second time. That baby is also RH positive. Now, these antibodies of the mother will be crossing the placenta. Antibodies, anti-D, will be crossing the placenta and will be reaching the baby and cause clumping, coagulation of the RBCs. So RBCs will be coagulated, that will be resulting in jaundice-like symptoms. Sometimes that may lead to stillbirth. That stillbirth, stunted growth, etc. will be characteristic. Severe anemia and jaundice-like situation called erythroblastosis fetalis. So how can it be prevented? Immediately after the first delivery, if the first baby is found to be confirmed to be RH positive, give the mother anti-D so that mother will not produce this anti-D. That will be suppressing the formation of antibodies in the mother. So mother is not sensitized. So this anti-RH antibody is to be given, okay, to the mother immediately after the first delivery, so that she will not develop antibodies. So that is why this RH group is also important. So understand that all of us may be belonging to ABA group and as well as RH group. So A positive, A negative, B positive, B negative, AB positive, AB negative, O positive, O negative. So based upon these two blood grouping patterns, 8 types of blood groups are there. Is that clear? Now, when blood is coming out of small wounds, normally it will be clotting within no time, but sometimes that blood will be coming for, say, for example, few minutes, and thereafter the blood fails to come out because blood has become a thickened mass-like structure at the wound site. This is called clotting. So clotting will be preventing the loss of blood. Clotting occurs as a result of long metabolic reaction where our fibrinogen is playing an important role and platelets are having their own role. It is a cascading reaction. It is a cascading reaction. When blood flow occurs through the wound, the platelets are broken. These broken platelets and the damaged tissue will be releasing two substances, namely thromboplastinogen and thromboplastinogeniase. This genase is an enzyme that will be acting on thromboplastin, converting into an active. See, this is thromboplastin. It is a gen, inactive. It will be converted into thromboplastin. This thromboplastin will activate in its turn another protein produced by the liver in presence of vitamin K. It is prothrombin. This prothrombin, it is again an inactive pro. This prothrombin is converted into active thrombin in presence of calcium ions. So calcium is essential for clotting. And who is performing this reaction or activating this reaction? It is activated by the thromboplastin. Thromboplastin is also called thrombokinase. It is an activating enzyme that activates prothrombin to thrombin. Once this thrombin is made active, it will act as an activating enzyme for converting our fibrinogen. It is a gen, inactive, to active fibrin. See, fibrinogen is now converted into active fibrin, which polymerizes. When it is polymerizing, it forms fibrin threads. These fibrin threads will be now forming a meshwork or a network. See, you are having fibrin threads. As more and more fibrin threads are produced, see, these are all occurring at the site of the wound. When they are all formed, it forms a network, and the mesh size becomes smaller and smaller, so that after a few seconds, the blood cells will become trapped in it. The mesh size becomes so small that blood cells cannot come. So blood cells are trapped in it. Once the blood cells are trapped in it, the wound is closed. So you are having the meshwork plus formed elements trapped in it. Formed elements trapped in it will form what is called clot. This is what is the clot. So through the clot, small amount of plasma. Now plasma is having now clotting elements. So plasma without clotting elements comes. That is called serum. What is serum? Plasma minus clotting factors. Serum cannot clot. Why? Because it is without clotting factors. Okay, understand that? So this is the long series of reaction, which is a cascading reaction. What is a cascading reaction? In every step, the reaction becomes stronger and stronger. So at the end, the reaction becomes so strong and occur very quickly. Such a reaction is called a cascading reaction. Clear? Now we pass on to the next part, namely the second fluid. The second fluid is the lymph. As blood is passing through minute capillaries, what is the structure of the capillary? Capillaries are having only squamous epithelium. They will be having small gaps in between. Through this small gap, the liquid part of the plasma comes out. And this fluid become accumulated between the tissues, between the cells of the tissues. So they become accumulated in the gap between the cells. Thus, this fluid become intercellular fluid. Remember, large sized proteins are not coming, only very small sized. And blood cells are not also coming normally, but you will be having some WBCs also coming out. Why they can come out? Because they can change their body shape. So by amoeboid movements, they will be squeezing between the gaps. This movement of WBCs is called diapedesis. So by diapedesis, some WBCs also come to the intercellular space. So this fluid, which is called intercellular fluid, is actually plasma minus large proteins. Okay. Plus some WBCs. Only some WBCs are coming. Why? All WBC cannot have the ability to change their shape and to come by diapedesis. So only some of them will be coming. That is the composition of the fluid, which is now in between the cells, in the gap between the cells, which is called intercellular fluid, which is also called lymph or tissue fluid. This is having the same mineral distribution as that in plasma. So there is no problem of osmosis between blood and the tissue fluid. There is no movement of water, only absorption of water or taking in of water passively from intercellular space to the blood or from blood to the intercellular, because there is equal distribution of minerals. Okay. Now, from this intercellular space, the fluid is collected by small vessels called lymphatic systems, and they will be taken back to the main veins of our body through their lymphatic ducts. Thus, from the blood, lymph is originating, and after passing through the lymphatic ducts, which will be having some swollen parts called lymph glands or lymph nodules, they are all taken back into the blood. What is this lymph nodules? Swellings present in lymph vessels. They are the site where the lymphocytes are multiplying, and they play an important role in protecting us, protecting our body from infections. These lymph glands are important immunological organs in our body. And what is the function of the lymph? Lymph acts as a agent in between tissue and the blood. So anything that is brought by the blood first enter into the body fluid, then and only it will be entering into cells. Similarly, the part structures which are all to be sent out, the components which are to be sent out, like it may be waste material, carbon dioxide, etc., from the tissues, first enter into the intercellular fluid, then enter into the blood. So it acts as a middleman. That's number one function. Second one, it is a carrier for nutrients, hormones, etc. Third one, it is an important component of our immunological system. And fourth one, we have studied in digestion that fat absorbed is first into the lacteals. Lacteals are actually part of the lymphatic system. Clear? So that's about the body fluids. Now we pass on to circulatory parts. As I told you, in animals, we are having open circulatory system and closed circulatory system. As vertebrates, we are all having closed type of blood vascular system. But what about our circulatory way? In fishes, there is only one route in which blood is flowing. That is from heart, impure blood is taken to the gills and they become oxygenated, and oxygenated blood reaches different tissues, and after becoming deoxygenated, the venous blood is always entering into the heart. So blood is always going in this route. So it's called single circulation. And the heart of fishes are called venous heart because it is always the impure blood that is entering. Oxygenated blood from gills are never reaching the heart. It is directly going to the tissues. Okay. Whereas in amphibia and reptiles, you are having a three-chambered heart. In fishes, you are having only one atria and one ventricle. Blood is received by the atrium, then it is going to the ventricle, and from the ventricle, it is going to the gills. In amphibia and reptiles, you are having two atria that receives pure and impure blood separately. So both pure and impure blood are coming to the heart, but they are all mixed in the single ventricle. So they are having incomplete double circulation. Though blood is passing through two routes, first to the lung and then it is coming back, then it is taken to different parts of the body, but these two blood are mixed together. So incomplete double circulation in frog, that is amphibia and reptiles. Whereas in birds and mammals, only you are having completely separated ventricle. So there will be a total of 4 chambers, and so there is no chance of mixing of the blood, and blood flows through two different routes. One from heart to lungs and back, two from heart to different organs and back. And these two blood are never mixed. So they are having complete double circulation. So let us see what is our condition. Our heart is having the size of a fist, our own fist, located in the mediastinum, that is the space between the two lungs. Okay, covered by a double-layered fluid-filled bag called pericardium. In this middle, whose apex is tilted slightly to the left side. That is the position of the heart. So it is in the thoracic cavity. Remember, thoracic cavity is protected on all sides by bones, sternum in the ventral, ribs on the lateral sides, and vertebral column on the dorsal side. Okay, this heart is having 4 chambers. And our heart is actually a double heart. I will explain what is a double heart. It is developing from mesoderm, heart is developing from mesoderm, and its walls are made up of cardiac muscles. Heart has a upper part called atria, whose walls are thin, the chambers are also smaller. And the lower part is called ventricle. See, this is, when you see, this is my right hand side. So, this is the right atria and this is the left atria. And the lower chambers are larger, whose walls are thicker also. So, this is the right ventricle, this is the left ventricle. The left ventricle is the largest, whose walls are also thickest. Atria receives blood from different parts of the body. Ventricle pumps blood out of the heart. Clear? Atria are divided into right and left by means of a thin interatrial septum. Septum means cross wall. Similarly, ventricles are also separated by a thin muscular partition, but actually it is thicker. It is thicker than that of the it is thicker than that of the atrial wall. Now, atria and ventricle are separated by a fibrous atrioventricular septum. Fibrous atrioventricular septum, which is having two openings called atrioventricular aperture. Right atrioventricular aperture is guarded by a valve having three lobes. So it's called tricuspid. Similarly, the left atrioventricular aperture is guarded by, protected by means of a bicuspid, meaning having two cusp lobes, also called mitral valve. Okay. So, the right side is concerned with impure blood. It receives impure blood, pumps blood to the lungs for purification. So, the right side is called pulmonary heart. Whereas the left side is called the systemic heart. Why? Because it receives blood and is pumped to the different systems. Blood is pumped to the different systems. So, it's called systemic heart. So, our heart is a double pump. It can pump blood simultaneously to the lung and to the systems of the body. That is why it is called double pump. Now, how the blood is coming to the atria? I told you that right side is concerned with impure blood. So, impure blood is coming through the three main veins called vena cava. A pair of superior vena cava and a single inferior vena cava. All of them are open to the right atrium. And blood from the right ventricle is carried by a thick blood vessel called renal. Sorry, it is pulmonary. It is pulmonary artery. It takes away the impure blood to the lung for oxygenation. At the beginning of the pulmonary artery, you are having half moon shaped valve. So it's called semi-lunar valve. Similarly, the blood that is pumped to the lung are oxygenated. Pulmonary artery is taking them to the lung and they will become oxygenated. And after oxygenation, the pure blood is taken back. After oxygenation, that pure blood is brought back to the heart through pulmonary veins to the left atria. And from the left atria through the left atrioventricular aperture guarded by the bicuspid or mitral valve, it will be reaching the left ventricle. And from the left ventricle, that pure blood is taken by a very large, a very large blood vessel by name aorta. It is called aorta. This aorta is also having semilunar valve at its beginning. Semilunar valve at the beginning. Okay. Now, the tricuspid and bicuspid valves are connected to certain conical muscles arising from the wall of the ventricle. These conical muscles are called papillary muscles. Through cord-like muscular cords. So it's called chordae tendinae. These are actually tendons because they are part of the muscles which are in the form of string that will be preventing the flaps of the atrioventricular valve projecting into or going into the atria. They are called chordae tendinae. This is the structure as I told you. The inside of the heart is lined by smooth squamous epithelium, which is in continuation with the blood vessels also. Now, our heart is having a number of peculiarities. One, it is auto-excitatory. That is, by itself, it can produce certain signals. And these signals are causing muscles to contract. So, our heart is myogenic. The contraction and relaxation, they are called correctly as systole and diastole, are all controlled by the muscles of the heart itself. Our brain can simply alter the speed, the strength, that's all. It cannot initiate. The initiation of that rhythm is under the control of certain special tissues which are all modified muscles of the heart. These tissues, modified muscles, are called nodal tissue. We are having two sets of nodal tissues. One, lying close to the opening of the vena cava on the top right hand side of the right atrium. You have a small node called SA node. This is the heart of the heart. So it's called pacemaker. It will produce signals by itself. There is no need of any external stimuli. Even without any external stimuli, automatically within, electrical signals are produced. That will be spreading the whole wall of the atria quickly. Okay. 70 to 75 times per minute. So we take the average 72. There is another nodal tissue located just above the right atrioventricular septum on the extreme left side. This is called AV node. AV node is called the pace setter. So this is the pacemaker, this is the pace setter. From this AV node arises a bundle, AV bundle, that pierces this septum emerges on the lower side and then enter into the atrioventricular septum and divides into two, passes through the anterior and posterior walls up to the apex of the heart, where it divides into and branches and supply the entire wall of the ventricle. Okay. These thick bundles are called bundle of His, and the tiny branches are called Purkinje fibers. Purkinje fibers. It is this nodal tissue which is making the rhythm of the heart contraction. Let us see how the heart is working. There is a rhythmic contraction followed by dilation. Systole, diastole. One systole followed by diastole constitute one cardiac cycle. Okay. Now, understand two basic things. Atrium and ventricle are not contracting simultaneously. They are not relaxing simultaneously. They contract and relax at different times. Their duration is also different. During the beginning of the cardiac cycle, a signal starts from SA node that spreads throughout the walls of the atria quickly, and the atrial wall become depolarized. That will cause contraction. When the atria is contracting, the volume of the atrial chamber become reduced. That means pressure inside the atrium is increasing. So because of that pressure, 30% of the blood enter from atria to the ventricle. Ventricle is not contracting this time. Okay, so this is called atrial systole. During atrial systole, tricuspid and bicuspid valves are open and blood flow from atria to the ventricle. Now, the signal will be reaching the AV node, which conduct it through the bundle of His to the Purkinje fibers. Thus, it reaches entire wall of the ventricle. Now, the ventricle contracts. Remember, the contraction begins from the apex. Okay, because it is here that Purkinje fibers are bringing the signals first. So, from here onwards, contraction spread to the different parts of the ventricle. So, during this time, when ventricle is contracting, that is called ventricular systole. Volume of the ventricle is decreasing, meaning pressure is increasing. That will be having two important changes brought about. One, because of the increase in pressure, the atrioventricular valves, that is tricuspid and bicuspid valves, are closed, and their closing will cause the first sound of the heart called leb sound. Closure of the tricuspid and bicuspid valve on the beginning of the ventricular systole causes the first sound, leb sound. Now, ventricle is continuing their contraction. Blood cannot flow back to the atria because the valves are closed. So, what is the only alternative? Because of the increase in pressure, the semilunar valves present at the base of these arteries are forced open, and impure blood from the right ventricle enter into the pulmonary artery, and pure blood from the left ventricle enter into the aorta. So, blood is pumped into the arteries, pulmonary artery and aorta respectively, from the right and the left ventricles. Along with the ventricular contraction, atria come back, that is to the right side, full size, that is atrial diastole. So, ventricular systole coincide with the atrial diastole. When atrium is diastoling, its volume, the volume inside the atrial chamber increases. So when volume is increasing, pressure is decreasing. Because of that fall in pressure, blood from the vena cava enter into the right atria, blood from the pulmonary veins enter into the left atria. So this is called atrial filling. Atrium become full of blood because the pressure inside is decreased. So because of the decrease in pressure, why pressure is decreasing? Because the atrium is relaxing, blood entering. Okay. And when the diastole is over, the ventricle, which is contracted, is now returning back. That is, its diastole begin. When it is in diastole, it is coming back to the normal size, volume is increasing, pressure is decreasing. And because of the fall in pressure, decrease in pressure, the semilunar valves, which are all open because of the high pressure, are now closed. That closure of that semilunar valves will cause the second sound called the dup. Okay, so lup and dup are the two sounds which are all associated with the working of the heart. Now, when ventricles are in diastole, volume is increasing, pressure is decreasing. Here, in atria, blood is in high pressure, and here it is in low pressure. So 70% of the blood comes in. So 70% of the blood is coming from atria to ventricle during ventricular diastole. The remaining 30% is coming during atrial systole. Now, when the ventricle is coming back, 70% of the blood is also there. We have again reached a stage where atria and ventricle are both in a diastolic stage, which is called joint diastole. So we started from a stage called joint diastole, and now both atria and ventricle are again in that stage called joint diastole. So one cycle is over. Remember, for one cycle, we took only 0.8 seconds. We took 60 seconds for 72. That is 0.8 seconds for one cardiac cycle. Of these, only 0.1 second is for atrial systole. Atrium will take only 0.1 second. For the remaining 0.7 second, atrium is in diastole. Atrial diastole. Then 0.3 seconds, ventricle is in systole. That means the remaining 0.5 seconds, ventricle is in diastole. And both atria and ventricle are in joint diastole for half of this time of a cardiac cycle, that is 0.4 seconds. So we can represent the duration of each event in the form of a simple diagram. 0.1 second atrial systole, 0.3 seconds ventricular systole, 0.4 seconds joint diastole. So during every contraction, heart ventricle, each ventricle is pumping about 70 ml of blood. This is called stroke volume. Volume of blood that is pumped. It is called stroke volume from one ventricle. And 72 times, that is the frequency. For every contraction, 70 ml is pumped from one ventricle. It is contracting 72 times. So 70 into 72 times, that is 5040 ml. We take average 5000 ml or 5 liters as the amount of or the volume of blood pumped from one ventricle in 1 minute. This volume of blood pumped in 1 minute is called cardiac output. So what is cardiac output? Volume of blood pumped from one ventricle in 1 minute. It is equal to the stroke volume multiplied by frequency. It is in a normal average man 5 liter per minute. 5 liter from each ventricle. Is that clear? So we have finished this part. Cardiac cycle. Okay. Now we can understand the healthy nature of our heart if our body is connected to a ECG machine. Electrocardiograph is that machine. And using that machine, you get a graph. That graph is called electrocardiogram or ECG. This ECG is a graphical representation of what? The electrical disturbances that are occurring on the walls of the heart. We are not measuring the contraction. We are not measuring the diastole or systole. What we are all getting is the electrical changes that are occurring. Understand that when the signal is spreading through the walls of the atria or ventricle, it causes a depolarization. It is that depolarization that causes the contraction. And when the muscles are coming back, we call it as repolarization. When repolarization occurs, we are having diastole. And an ECG will be having different waves which are represented from alphabet P to T. For getting this symbol, that is called standard ECG, our body should be connected to the machine at least with 3 electrodes. 2 to the wrist and 1 to the left ankle. But nowadays, for observing our heart functioning continuously, to monitor our heart functioning continuously for 24 hours, etc., we need more electrodes to be attached to different parts of the chest. So, in a standard ECG, the P wave represents the depolarization of atria, that is atrial contraction. It is during this period that atrium is contracting. QRS is a wave complex that represents depolarization of ventricle, that is ventricle is contracting. Remember, it is during this contraction, blood is pumped. So this is very, very important. And T wave represents the coming back, repolarization of ventricle. That is diastole of ventricle. So where is diastole of atrium? Diastole of atrium coincides with the contraction of systole of ventricle. Both are occurring simultaneously. So there is no wave separately for the repolarization, diastole of atrium, because it is coinciding with the systole of the ventricle. And the number of QRS waves will be equal to the number of times the ventricles are pumping, and the amplitude of QRS wave will be giving you an idea regarding the strength of contraction. So this ECG is giving you a clear idea regarding the healthy status of your heart. That is why doctors will be giving more clinical significance to these ECGs. Okay. Now, coming back, we have discussed that in our case, we are having double circulation. What is that double circulation? Now you will be able to understand it. blood is flowing through two different routes. So, for example, blood that is reaching the heart from different parts of the body, that is right atrium, reaches the right ventricle. From right ventricle, it is pumped through the pulmonary artery. It reaches the lung and oxygenated there. After oxygenation, again it is reaching the left atria. This is a short route. Going out from right atria as impure, returning as pure to the left atria. So from the right side, blood reaches the left side. This circulation is called the pulmonary circulation because it goes to the lung and comes back. Since it is taking a short route, it is also called lesser circulation. Whereas the second circulation, the pure blood from left atria now enter into the left ventricle, passes through the aorta and reaches different systems of the body. All systems are supplied with oxygenated blood. That blood is becoming deoxygenated or impure, and through the three vena cavae, it is reaching the right atria. So it passes through a long route through the systems of the body. So this circulation is called systemic circulation. Going out from left ventricle as pure blood, returning to the right atria as impure blood. This is called greater circulation because this route is a larger one. Okay, and the blood from left side is reaching the right side of the heart after passing through the systemic circulation. So this is the reason why I told you that the right side is called pulmonary heart because blood is pumped to the lungs, and the left side is called systemic heart because it is pumped to the different systems. Okay, so pulmonary heart, right side. Systemic heart, left side. Our heart is a double pump and there is no mixing of blood anywhere. There is no chance of. That is the greatest advantage birds and mammals are having over amphibians and reptiles. We are having complete double circulation. Clear? So, body circulation. Now, blood vessels are the vessels through which our blood is passing. We are having three types of blood vessels. What are they? One, arteries. Two, veins and capillaries. What is an artery? Let us see. Artery is a blood vessel that takes blood away from heart. Away. That takes blood away to distant places, away from heart. Its walls are thick. We are having three layers for a blood vessel. Outermost is called tunica externa, which is a very tough connective tissue layer. The middle layer called tunica media is made up of smooth muscles. It is made up of smooth muscles. It is very thick. Tunica media. And the internal one is a very smooth layer. Tunica intima. Made up of squamous epithelium. In arteries, the tunica media is very thick. So lumen is, this is the lumen. Lumen is narrow. And an artery always end up in capillaries. End up in capillary. Whereas veins bring blood towards heart. They are thin walled. Why they are the thin walled? Because tunica media, which is made up of smooth muscles, involuntary smooth muscles. This is very thin. since muscles are thin, lumen is large. Wide lumen. Okay. And they will begin in capillaries. They will begin in capillaries. Okay. Whereas the capillaries are thin walled. They are having only endothelium, that is tunica intima, which is forming the endothelium made up of squamous epithelium. It is through the capillaries that materials are exchanged between blood and the tissues. Okay. So this is the way blood is flowing. You can see pulmonary artery taking to the lungs, pulmonary veins bringing pure blood. And that pure blood is taken to different systems through the dorsal aorta to different body parts. They become deoxygenated or venous, and vena cava is bringing blood to the right atria. Now, I told you that our heart is myogenic, auto-excitatory, self-excitatory, and still it is regulated to a certain extent by our central nervous system. In the hindbrain, we are having a part called medulla oblongata. This medulla oblongata is having a cardiac center. This center, called cardiac center, in the medulla oblongata, brings about the control through the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems. Those coming through the sympathetic nervous system will increase both the rate and force of contraction, strength of contraction, whereas parasympathetic system can decrease both the rate as well as the strength of contraction. So, parasympathetic neural signal will decrease the rate of heartbeat, speed of contraction of action potential, and thereby cardiac output. The strength of contraction increasing means cardiac output increasing. Strength of contraction decreasing means cardiac output decreasing. Similarly, we are having adrenal medullary hormones, which are called emergency hormones. This is produced in case of emergency, when you are frightened, etc. They will also increase the cardiac output. Coming to the last part, namely disorders. Normally, our blood will be exerting a pressure on the walls of the blood vessel, which is called blood pressure. It is measured by a small instrument called sphygmomanometer, and in a healthy man, it should be 120 for systole and 80 for diastole. So we write it as 120, 80. But if this pressure goes on increasing and is maintained, sustained to 140 by 90, that is 140 over 90, 140 for systole, 90 for diastole. Then it is called high blood pressure or hypertension, which is dangerous to our existence. Is that clear? So, when pressure is increasing, capillaries will be easily broken, and that will be causing bleeding in our internal organs like brain, kidney, heart, valves, etc. Then sometimes the blood supply to the heart is very much reduced because the coronary artery will be having some coatings or thickenings on some part in the, see, this is the blood vessel and you are having a thickening that will reduce the lumen. So blood flow to that organ, heart, will be reduced. That reduction in the supply of blood to the heart muscle is caused because of a deposit of calcium or fat or cholesterol or fibrous tissues that makes the lumen narrower. This condition is called coronary artery disease or atherosclerosis. You are having deposits that narrow the blood vessel so that blood supply to heart will be very much reduced. So what happens when sufficient oxygenated blood is not reached the heart walls, it will be causing pain. That pain in the muscles of the heart is generally called as chest pain or angina pectoris. When no enough oxygen is reached the heart muscles, pain is causing angina pectoris, which may occur in both male and female. Elderly persons are more subjected to this problem. Okay, and sometimes the heart will be failing to pump enough oxygenated blood. This condition is called heart failure because heart failed in its function. What is the function? To pump effectively oxygenated blood to different parts of the body. So the body has failed in its function. It is called congestive heart failure because congestion of the lung is the main symptom of this disease. There will be severe congestion of the lungs. Sometimes heart will be suddenly stopping. This sudden stopping is called heart failure. Heart will be suddenly stopping. Sometimes the muscles of the heart will be breaking. If no oxygenated blood is reaching sufficiently, heart muscles will break. And understand, once the heart muscles break, the muscles are never regenerated. So the heart will become weaker and weaker. There will be some still muscles, but it is losing its strength of contraction because more muscles have become broken, damaged. That is called heart attack or myocardial infarction. So understand that heart attack is sudden breaking of the muscles of the heart. Cardiac arrest is sudden stopping of the functioning of the heart, and heart arrest is, see, sudden arrest, and heart failure is failure of the heart to effectively pump oxygenated blood to different parts of the body. Okay, so with that we come to the conclusion of this chapter, body fluid and circulation. Okay, we will meet with another chapter next time. Until then, take care, and I am taking leave from all of you. So thank you all. Thank you once again.